Good afternoon and welcome to Jeff and the Rabbi. Well, it's right after Lag BaOmer now.
That's
here.
right.
So
That's
we're
right.
drawing closer to Shavuot here.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably a good time to talk about it.
All right. 34 of 49.
Wow.
Right? That's what we're up to right now. We're up to
34.
day 34 of the 49-day count, headed to Shavuot.
Which is amazing because I'm actually on right with my count. I usually find them 3 or 4 days behind, but this is pretty good for me. So interesting, we're talking about really the 10 Commandments. That's what happens on Shavuot, right? The 10 Commandments come out. And I was thinking about it last night. Did it really happen? I mean, it's such a, it's such an amazing event. Did it happen? Is it just a story? Most of us have the idea, we've seen Charlton Heston, he comes across the Red Sea and all of a sudden he goes to the top of Mount Sinai, 40 days, whatever,
Right.
comes down. Actually, the 10 Commandments. So you had the 10 Commandments.
Right.
10 Commandments come out. Amazing thing, great production, by the way. Did it happen the way Cecil B. DeMille described? Did it not happen? So, but it's so long ago, how do we really know it even happened? There's a lot of smart men back there. They could have written down the 10 Commandments and that would have been it. Here's my theory. Mm-hmm. I've got the proof. Before we even start talking, I've got the proof it really happened. Here we are, we're at Sinai now. Now, have you heard of Casey Kasem? You heard of him? The guy used to do the countdown, the top 100.
Sure.
By the way, he was also the voice of Scooby-Doo. I heard somebody said that. The little dog that solved the mysteries.
Wow.
That's another thing.
Wait a second, didn't that dog not talk?
He did talk like that. No, maybe it's the voice of Shaggy, the guy that was
One
in
of
there,
them was just making like when you was going.
Maybe he was the guy. He was the voice in the thing. But anyway, so Casey Kasem, brilliant marketing. You'd start every week with the top 100. You go through the songs, and you got the wannabes up there, the 199. Right. When you get down to 10, it was obviously in prime time hour. Everybody's listening. Who's going to be 9? Who's going to be 8? Mm-hmm. Big news. And then you finally get to number 1. Huge thing. That's how you do it. You build up the anticipation, and you get to number 1. Whatever the song was, that was the biggest thing, and it was prime time.
Right.
So here we are at Sinai. If this was either the dumbest marketing plan ever, you're trying to sell a brand new religion, either the dumbest or the smartest. Instead of that, we go right to number 1. God comes out with number 1, and it's a biggie. I am the Lord your God. I mean, you can't get any bigger than that. Well, okay, I can go home now. It's done. I mean, I'm the Lord. You can't top that one. There's not going to be a better hit after that one. And then after that, he goes, there's no other gods like me. Don't take my name in vain. Wait, I'm missing one.
Yeah.
Which one I'm missing there?
Right. No idols. Don't build any idols. Don't take my name in vain.
See, you got the top 3. Listen, the top 3 are so big now, the people almost die. I mean, their souls jump out of their body. It's over. It's done for the souls. So, well, not really good marketing. That's it. We're going to sell the whole religion on that. But here's my theory. You get the top 3 here. God says the top 3. So big that the people almost die. Talking about killing your audience. This is like killing the audience. Right. So now Moses gets to take over for the rest of them. And here they go. Okay, don't kill. All right, well, that's not fun, but we can't kill anymore, Honor their father and mother.
Yeah, right. That was.
All right, that's not that bad. Okay, here you get now. No more adultery.
Well, Sabbath came first.
Sabbath. How about Sabbath?
Then honoring your parents, right?
Yeah, but when you finally get to the adultery thing, it's like, wait a minute, it's Saturday night. What are we going to do? No adultery. This is not really selling the religion too well. Then you get to the, obviously you can't even covet your neighbor's wife, or his ox or anything.
Right.
Pretty much, not much of a sales pitch. So my theory is this is why it happens. I mean, at this point, most people would walk out. You're done. You had me at coveting the ox. Once that, I'm gone. I'm out. So here he is. You open up with the biggies like this. Remember, you got a bunch of Jews down there. You'd think, someone would have thought there's a lot of marketing guys down there. But God comes out with, I am the Lord your God. So the rest of it, it doesn't matter. You're pretty much at this point, this is why I prove it. Anyone else would have gone the Casey Kasem route. Right. I am the Lord your God. You almost died here in that one. By the third one, you pretty much did die. So the rest of the stuff, which is going to get kind of tough here, is not going to be that easy. This religion is not going to be that fun. There's not really a good, good exciting part. It's going to be a lot of rules and regulations. But bottom line, I am the Lord your God. I got you at that one. I'm done. You got to listen to me.
You know why they put him up they want him up in the courthouses? In Alabama?
Yeah.
You start off with, I'm the Lord your God. Now we can have a conversation. Because up until now, I didn't really have your attention. Don't commit adultery. Yeah, okay. Well, maybe, if the husband's not home. What time's your husband coming home? Then I'll decide whether we commit adultery or not. So this way, it's like, I'm Lord your God. All right, guys. Now you want to mess with that? You mess with that. That is my opening card. After that, now we can talk. Once we've
I think that's pretty big. That's why that's to me is the proof of everything. Because everything else you build up to the big. Once you say I'm the Lord your God, and then you almost die in the process while you're hearing that. All right, okay, so I'll skip the adultery this week.
Right. Well, if it really, really boils down to this particular episode, the whole thing, everything, all about our belief in everything that we do. If you look at all the different groups in Judaism, you get Orthodox, Conservative, Reform, it really, really, really all comes back to how you understand this particular story. Did it happen the way it says it happened, or did it not? If it did, you got to go one way, and if it didn't, then you're free to go some other ways. It's really pretty essential, because if it happened that way, and you got to admit one thing about this story, there is no parallel to this story anywhere. No religion, no even fiction, no writers, people come up with all kinds of all biblical stories. There's been like a zillion and one knockoffs of biblical stories. Abraham and Ishmael and the struggle of a wife and a mother and the kick out the son. A million and one books written about all that stuff, right? But no one, even Exodus stories. There are Exodus stories and all kinds of people are going to the promised land, and you get the pilgrims, and every time Dick and Harry is like, take me to the promised land, want to win the Super Bowl or something, right? But the giving of the Torah, the Ten Commandments story, where Moses is up on the mountain, and God is talking to him, and he's talking to the people, and in essence, God is talking to the people, because the story opens with God talking to people, and then the people say, no, Moses, we can't handle this, God talking to the people, unparalleled story, any religion, any time, any place, anywhere.
It's a hard one to make up, considering what was it, 3 million people out there listening?
Right. So if you're Orthodox, you say truth is stranger than fiction. Right? Yeah. No one would have come up with this story, and first of all, it had never happened. Let's say it never ever happened. What fiction writer would ever believe such a story, right? True. No one would ever even dream of trying to sell such a story, right? So fiction wouldn't happen. And if it really didn't happen, who would ever buy it?
I mean, you already set yourself up with 3 million witnesses. This is going to be a tough one to not
You're going to have to convince a group of people that something happened. So you say, well, maybe as time goes on, you could convince a group of people that this major, major event happens. So Orthodox Jews basically say, nah, you never convince everyone of that. It's way too hard. On the other hand, by the way, if you're going to start a new religion, there's only one way to do it. The real way. And this is the only way. Because this set the gold standard for all religions.
It did.
From here on in, if anyone proclaims to have a new religion, to represent God, to be the high priest, son of God, divine of God, born of God, God's emperor, you name it, and a ton of people have gone that route.
I've named it, yeah.
Okay, so the question over and over again is, so then, let God introduce it. Let God himself introduce it. Why does God never show up at any of the induction?
Well, he kind of does in visions, and he does in prophecies and things like that, but he doesn't make it to the
right. But God never ever shows up at any of these induction ceremonies when the new guy is supposed to get started. So we got a twofold thing. We said, on the one hand, if this was not true, no one would have ever bought into it. On the other hand, if you really, really want to make a religion, this is the only way to do it. And by rights, if God did want to make a religion, that's the way he should have done it. And let anyone else that wants to come along and make a religion do it this way.
That would make sense.
So this is the argument, and this is the way the Orthodox Jews look at it. And actually, this is what it says in the Torah. If you read the Torah, it says they got to Mount Sinai, and God spoke to Moses. He told the people to get ready, and this is the deal. I'm going to offer them this covenant. Moses told the people. They got ready. On the seventh day, God appears and all that, and he says, I'm Lord your God. And they have like a one-on-one. Right? And that is the way the Torah says. If you don't buy that, then you don't really buy the entire text.
That's logical.
Right. And the whole text is gone. Because the text itself, you can't say, well, I really like the Torah, except that the central part of the story, I think, is a lie.
That would be tough.
Right.
If you're not buying that, then forget about reading the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, this is like they just found a certain judge was found out to be dishonest in some of his private dealings. So he said, yeah, but, that was just my private stuff.
Okay, over here.
Right. Well, for some reason, people just don't feel that if you're a judge, the centrality of you is honesty, right? That I can use you as a judge. The same thing, if the central story of the Torah is a lie, then I have to say, listen, I just cannot buy into, on any level, a book that promotes itself when I know it is a lie.
Wow, you're probably, though, bringing in a lot of people that feel that way, though, and they do say that they believe in the Torah.
I believe in the Torah. I like the Torah. There's a lot of wisdom in the Torah. Of course, the centrality of it is a lie, and whoever wrote it, of course, were like basically liars and deceivers, but they had a lot of wisdom.
That's a tough one right there.
I really don't like liars who are wise. Matter of fact, historically, there have been many, many wise liars.
Right.
But you can't trust them. As a matter of fact, wise liars are really much more dangerous than stupid liars.
Those are the ones you gotta
because
worry about,
the stupid liars, okay, you can, that's the wise ones are the tricky ones. So how can you trust a book whose centrality is this story? And it clearly is the centrality of the story. There's no other way out of that one. So either you go for it or you don't go for it. Now, let's say you don't go for it. Well, if you don't go for it, then why are you doing any of it? So then there's one or two ways. Some people will say, I don't do any of it. If it makes sense to me, if it's a nice thing, I do it. Then other people will say, well, that's a tradition.
Which I've heard often, yeah.
Right, that's a tradition, and people have done that. So to me, as a tradition of fools. That's a tradition of fools. Because historically, because my grandparents believed in something that has now turned out to be foolish, that I should do that because that was their tradition. No. So then there is a modification of the tradition. It is a tradition until you decide it's not a tradition. In which case I would say, okay, I've decided it's not a tradition. And I'm out of here.
Or at least this part's not a tradition. I'm done with it. I might do that, which I think is how it starts. Okay, they did that in the olden days. My grandparents did it, but they didn't know better. So let's go ahead and eat lobster. Let's go ahead and eat pork. And then eventually get to the point where...
Or it's not relevant now. But the real tricky point is some people will say, I believe in the Torah. And yet, when push comes to shove, do you believe in this story? Do you believe that God spoke to Moses and spoke to the people? 3 million people or something thereabouts actually heard God speaking? And then people say, well, I don't know about that. Well, if that's the case, then the book lies. So if the book lies, so all the rest of it's a lie. Or any other part of it could be a lie. And if any other part of it could be a lie, why am I delving into it? I could delve into Shakespeare. I don't find people like Shakespeareans, that they name their kids Hamlet, and that they, eat Hamlets for breakfast and stuff like that. I don't see that.
Close, an omelet.
Yeah,
Hamlet.
right.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, I tried.
Okay, that's good.
I just don't see it. You can't go that direction. So, but if you go the other way, and you say that this was true, then now you've got to really deal with it. Well, if you said this is true, then there's only one area of discussion. What did it mean? When he said it, okay, now we know he said it. So now, what exactly did he mean when he said that? And that, okay, now there's a lot of room for just debate about that, because you read some of the things that were said, and it's not really clear what exactly did you mean. Did you mean this or that? What did it say? It said do this, and it says do that. don't do this, but yes, do that. And what happens when they clash? And there's 1,000,001 issues. Okay, so there's room for a lot of debate. So, what the holiday of Shavuos is really about, and it's very interesting that we got this holiday coming up, 2 weeks, just 2 weeks. Okay, so in 2 weeks, I think it was a Tuesday night, probably 2 weeks from tomorrow night. So it's so interesting that it's not very popular. Not very popular holiday. I don't think people are doing it. People are in Reform. I think they do confirmation. They have a lot of confirmation ceremonies. I think it's popular to do it at Shavuos time. I don't know if it still is, but once upon a time it used to be. The holiday of Shavuos is really, really very not popular. I think if you had to vote, Passover, a lot of people, Passover, Seder,
Right.
Rosh Hashanah, universal awareness of Rosh Hashanah. Yom Kippur, a lot of people are doing it. Most everyone is aware of it. Hanukkah, big time awareness. The holiday of Sukkot, but Sukkot sure does much better than Shavuot.
Yeah, if you're ranking Shavuos, it's not on the top there. It's not doing well at all.
It's
no tree, there's no gifts, there's nothing.
I don't think it even gets half the audience that
No.
Sukkot does.
No.
I mean,
No.
it's really
That's
so.
pretty
It
bad.
makes sense though that it wouldn't. It makes sense that it wouldn't because it's all about the giving of the Torah. If you're not a giving of the Torah believer,
Who cares?
so it really should be like the first one to go. Because what are you going to do? You're going to celebrate this event when God spoke to the Jews from Mount Sinai, and yet you don't really believe that God spoke to the Jews on Mount Sinai? It makes sense. It makes sense that it really should go. It should be one of the first to go. On the other hand, if you do believe in the story, it's really, really, really big. It's really huge. That's why the Orthodox Jews, they so anticipate the event that the custom is they stay up all night so that they can, the very first moment in the morning, they pray and they read the giving of the Torah. They read about the 10 Commandments like they do early in the morning. Make a really, really big deal out of it. Don't want to miss a moment of it and all that type of stuff. So it really is the key.
And it actually makes sense. I mean, it kind of goes back to the discussion we were having earlier about once you get past I am the Lord your God, then everything else, I mean, listen, if the God was out there and he gave the 10 Commandments, everything else is just, that's what's next.
Right.
I mean, as you said, you can argue about it, you can discuss it, what did he mean, but if God said I am the Lord your God and everybody heard it, everything else is just what follows.
Right. Now, there is a famous question, and it is a matter of some debate, and that is, what exactly happened? Like, what did he give at Mount Sinai? So we know the story about the 10 Commandments.
Or 15.
Right.
Right. Behind us.
Right.
That's Mel Brooks behind us.
Okay.
Right.
So we know the story. He gave the 10 Commandments, and we have the text of them. And the people gathered, and the God said, "I am the Lord your God who took you out of the land of Egypt," and so on and so forth. Okay. Thou shalt not. Thou shalt. Thou shalt not. Thou shalt. Okay. So we know that he gave the 10 Commandments. That much he gave. What else happened at Mount Sinai? What did they understand? What did they get from that? That is a matter of debate. And more particularly is the rest of the story is that after that episode, Moses goes up on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. And there is a verse in the Torah that says, God says, "Come up here and be with me, and I will give you," this is the verse in the Torah. It's in Exodus, like around chapter 24, 25, something like that. Mm-hmm. And it says, God says, "Come up here and be with me, and I will give you the tablets of stone and the Torah and the mitzvah, which I have written to teach them." That's what God says to Moses. Come up here. So it sounds like it's a whole grab bag he's going to give him. Like, better bring a shopping cart.
That's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I'm going to give you. Tablets of stone. That's a handful right there. Then he's going to give him the Torah. Okay, like we have to see what's that. I mean, the Torah, I mean, what is it?
That's a lot in itself.
Yeah. and the mitzvah. Well, what's the mitzvah? We know what a mitzvah is. Mitzvah is a good deed. Mitzvah literally means commandment. So what is that? And then it says, which I have written to teach them. So where is all that? So the simple, straightforward meaning would seem to be that in addition to the tablets that contain on them the 10 commandments that the people just heard, Moses is going to come back with a teaching that was written down. Because God says, which I have written to teach them. So the Torah is, the word Torah, by the way, means teaching.
Right.
Morah is a teacher, right? Torah is the teaching. So they're going to come back with some written document of teaching.
Right.
And then there's something else which is going to be called the mitzvah. The mitzvah. So what's this mitzvah thing? And this is where the traditional Orthodox scholars understand that the rabbis have always understood the mitzvah means the oral explanations of the written text.
Okay.
So therefore, when Moses comes back, he not only has tablets, okay, he's got a scroll,
right,
which has more than just the tablets, and he also has been taught how to interpret all of these written text in the scroll.
So in those 40 days, Moses wrote down, from dictation, wrote down the whole Torah.
Right.
10 Commandments, obviously those 10 Commandments, which were then, he wrote those, he carved those himself at that point.
Actually,
the
first one, God says, it says
right,
God carved.
Oh, so he came down even the first time he had the Torah with him. I didn't realize that, okay.
Yeah.
I never saw that in the picture. He didn't have the Torah with him.
Yeah, because, they couldn't figure out where to get it in. Exactly.
Yeah,
like I said, he needs a shopping cart
right,
or something like that, Right.
Okay.
So, he comes down with got the tablets and the Torah and all this explanation. And then he sees the people dancing around the golden calf, and he smashes the tablets. Then he goes up again and gets a new set of tablets.
But just new tablets, not a Torah again.
Not a Torah again.
Right.
Right.
I gotcha. I didn't know
He's
that.
got this written text, and he's given an oral explanation of how to understand this written text, which he's now going to use to explain to them.
Right.
Or at least a methodology. Either he was explained the whole text, or he was given a methodology to analyze the text. That's matter of debate. So he comes back with a lot of stuff. He comes back with all this, and therefore, the readers of the Torah who read and believe the Torah say that the whole Torah was there from the get-go. It wasn't something that was compiled later, written up by other people, concocted later. It wasn't just the 10 Commandments. The whole Torah was there from the very beginning.
Here's a quick question. Moses obviously heard the whole Torah because he wrote it down. So did he know what was going to happen in the next, 40 years?
That is a great question. And, the addendum to that question is, if he did, then he's really not very astute.
He really should have read a little closer there. He messed up.
Please. So yeah, this is a big problem. This is a big issue. So whenever I'm asked this question, I always answer this with the approach of Nachmanides, which is found in Nachmanides' Introduction, his commentary on the Torah. And this is the way Nachmanides explains it, and this is the way that really makes most sense to me, and this is what I share with other people, but there might be other understandings of this.
Okay.
Now, it does say many times in the Torah, and God spoke to Moses at the tent of meeting, or in the plain of Moab, or something at some later date, and he says, tell the children of Israel. So there's this problem. If he came back with the whole Torah, then what's the subsequent God spoke to and all that?
Right.
It sounds like God, he came back with something, but more was added to it over the course of the 40 years.
Right.
That's what it sounds like. Yet we have this teaching that Moses received the entire Torah intact.
Right.
And the reason that that's really important is because the Torah is one organic whole, and it all has to do with each other. How do you understand it if you don't have all of it? So this is what Nachmanides says. Nachmanides says, picture your word processor.
Okay.
Picture your word processor. And, it has...
Nachmanides didn't mention the word processors.
Didn't mention word processor.
Just wanted to make that clear for everybody here.
I try to contemporize Nachmanides. He's a great guy. 1300 or so.
Didn't have a word processor though.
No, fled, lived in Aragon, in Spain. Got in some trouble with King James of Aragon, or with a Jewish apostate named Pablo Cristiani. He kept on debating with him. Things got hot for him. Later in life, he got out of there, went to Israel, and died in Israel. Okay, but great scholar. Nachmanides, Rabbi Moshe ben, son of Nachman, as opposed to Maimonides, who lived about 100 years before him. Okay. Now, Nachmanides says, picture word processor, my words. Okay. Now there is a replace function that, every time you find, let's say the word the with a lowercase, you can type it in with the uppercase, and it'll replace it. Right? So Nachmanides said, Moshe got the Torah. It came without spaces.
Okay.
Just letters.
Just letters in the right order, but there's letters.
Letters. All in the same order we got now. Same order we've got now, but no spaces in the words.
Okay.
That's the way God gave them the Torah.
There could be a lot of different meanings going on here.
A lot of different meanings of Torah. And you know what? There are a lot of different meanings of Torah. Not contradictory meanings, but the Torah can be understood on levels upon levels upon levels.
How many letters in the in the Hebrew alphabet?
22.
Okay. So there could be a lot of different things going on there.
Lot going on. Okay, break up the words. Did you ever try to do those word finds?
Yep.
Right? Right, you can come up with all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Okay, so Moses had the Torah, and he was studying the Torah. And he was studying the Torah on a lot of different levels because he was seeing lots of different word combinations. According to Nachmanides, at certain points, God said to Moses, okay, Moses, see that column over there? Okay, put a space after the sixth letter, then count 4 more, put a space, then count 12 more, put a space, count 3 more, put a space, space.
Right.
And all of a sudden, lo and behold, Moses reads the story, and oh my gosh, that's what just happened yesterday.
Wow, okay. So continuously throughout the 40 years.
Or some say, at the end of the 40 years, he told Moses, okay, let's go back, put in the spaces, and Moses reads like, oh my God.
He must be shocked when he got that last paragraph, by the
way.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. As a matter of fact, there's a whole discussion in the Talmud. Who wrote the last 8 sentences of Torah? Because the last 8 sentences Moses died.
Right.
So some say Joshua wrote it. Others say Moshe wrote it with tears in his eyes, because he's writing his own death.
Right.
Okay. But, Moshe had it right in front of him, but he couldn't figure it out. Now, of course, you can't figure it out because I could tell you that the cure for cancer is in the Torah. It's written there explicitly. No one notices it.
Right.
You know why? Because we don't know what the cure for cancer is.
Once you know what the cure for cancer is,
Once you can run.
Right.
If you know what you're looking for, you can find it.
I guess that's that hindsight 2020 thing there.
Right. It's really, really hard to find an encoded item when you don't know what you're looking for.
I guess that's a really good point right there, yeah.
It's like nearly impossible. Yeah. So, so Moses has this whole episode, where he has this mistake with Korach or all any of these stories, right?
Right.
And he messes up, right? And then after the episode, God comes back to him and puts a bunch of spaces, and lo and behold, there's the whole story told out right there. But since Moses hadn't lived through it yet, he didn't know what to look for. So the day before it happened, he couldn't have been looking. He couldn't have imagined that.
Right.
You never even know it. So you got to know what you're looking for in order to find in a code. It says, find the hidden words in here. Okay, what words am I supposed to find? I'm not going to tell you.
If they don't put that on the side of the puzzle, it's very hard to go find them.
I'm not going to tell you. So how do you know if you found the hidden words? So he'll find all kinds of hidden words. No, but those weren't the ones you were looking for. But you didn't tell me which ones to look for. Okay. You want me to tell you everything?
That makes a little more sense then.
So Nachmanides therefore solves that riddle. Because therefore you say Moses had the entire Torah, right? And he could study it on different levels because he was given wisdom from God to delve into the Torah, and he derived all kinds of amazing things.
Right.
But the story part, as well as some of the commandments, he was not shown in the text until certain points. And even that point is a matter of debate whether he was whether he was exposed to certain commandments at various points along the line, or
Right.
whether he actually knew them in advance and was only told to tell them to the people somewhere along the line. It gets a little dicey.
Okay. Well, here's a question, and it was asked earlier. Why did this happen in Mount Sinai? Why did it happen? Why didn't we wait till we got to Israel? You're in the Promised Land. Why in the desert, in the middle of the desert,
Right.
was the Torah given then?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if we had 40 years of the people coming together, understanding. I mean, right after Egypt, they go into the desert and they get the Ten Commandments.
And you know what? If I could just juice that question up a little bit, what about the place that it was given? What place, Mount Sinai, does that occupy in Jewish history from then on? Mount Sinai. What's the significance of Mount Sinai after that moment?
Well, I mean, we think all the soul. I mean, it depends how you're looking. Maybe everybody's soul was there. We all were there. There's a lot of different things to talk about.
So, does it ever show up again in any episode in Jewish history? Do we ever see that people went to visit it? Is it an important place?
No, not really.
Do we do any observances there?
We're not really totally sure exactly where it is.
There is one time where there's a story of Elijah, and Elijah goes way out into the desert, and he ends up at Mount Sinai.
But other than that, nothing.
Nothing.
Well, in a lot of big cities, you end up at Mount Sinai Hospital. I think I was born at Mount Sinai Hospital.
That's right.
But other than that, no.
Right. So it's nothing. It's so interesting that the most significant event of all of according to the believers of the story, the most significant event in the history of mankind, and yet the place that it happened is totally insignificant to us.
Right. That's a good question.
We never go back to visit it. We don't have a holiday where we do it. We don't even it doesn't have any token in our observance in the Torah. We eat matzahs and we blow shofars and we build sukkahs. We don't. No one ever does little Sinais.
Right.
So the reason for that is that it's outside of Israel. The whole thing is done outside of Israel. Well, the people are not yet in the land. So that when they enter the land with their law. And this tells them two things. First of all, the law is the law. It's in Israel or it's outside of Israel.
Well, that's a good point.
The law is not predicated on a location. You don't only have the Torah if you're in Israel, which would mean if you leave Israel, you don't have the Torah. No, they got the Torah outside. That's A. And B is, they entered the land knowing the instructions already. They are a people with a vision. They don't wait till they get there to find out their vision. They know their vision. They know what they're supposed to do. Now they find a land. They're brought to a land where they're supposed to do it. But it's very clear to them who they are and what they are before that. And as a matter of fact, God was not going to have them wait too much longer. He's going to get them right away pronto to get the law, explain it to them, talk to them. They know it. And now let's move on into the land. But the law is the law, and the land is the land.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
And even if they're not going to have the land, they still have the law. And it's turned out that to date, we have spent more time without the land than we have spent with the land.
But we have the law everywhere we go.
That's right. So, they came into Israel. It was about 800 years before they got the temple. And then there was another 400 years, so it's about 1,200 years. And then they were out, right?
Yep.
They were out. And then they came back, let's say 70 years later, came back to Israel.
Right.
And they spent another 400 years there. And then they were kicked out again. So you're talking about 1,600 years of our history we have spent in Israel. Okay? 2,000 years of our history we spent outside of Israel. So it's a good thing that the Torah is an outside of Israel as well as inside of Israel thing, because otherwise, most of the time we've been out. We've been out more than we've been in.
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
So bottom line here, Ten Commandments, if you look at it, and from your explanation, it makes a lot of sense. That's the root of everything here. If you're a Jew who doesn't believe that the Ten Commandments that happened to Mount Sinai,
right.
It's kind of like you're just have a watered down religion there that really doesn't have much going for it there.
To tell you the truth, you should be embarrassed.
Yeah, what are you doing?
You have a religion that at its very root is a lie.
So this is the 21st century. What are you doing wasting your time with that?
I mean, this is embarrassing. When you have a religion and you see that, if you're a Catholic and you think that the Pope is a fraud, well, get out.
Right.
Bail out. Right? If you believe if you're a Christian, you believe the Bible is a fraud, bail out. And by the same token, if you're a Jew and you think that the Bible lies, well, I like some of it, but I think the rest of it's a fraud, bail out.
No, that makes sense. Which I guess they are.
Unless you say, listen, I don't believe that there was Shakespeare. I think it was really like a lot of different people wrote all those different plays. But I happen to like the plays. Okay? That's very good. But,
Don't base your whole life on it.
Yeah, no one's going to spend too much money on Shakespeare. And, certainly you're not going to give up anything and modify your life just because of a Shakespeare play.
Right. But I guess the point is, though, if we open up, well, I am the Lord your God, then I guess I can give up adultery, and I guess I can give up pork, and I guess I can even, do some other things there.
Not only, guess you can, I think you're going to have to.
You have no choice.
What's your choice?
Right.
Hands down.
Hands down.
What can you do?
Right, so this then, in 2 weeks, is a pretty big day.
It is a big day. It is a big day, and if you believe that the Torah says what it says, and if you don't, then you got to wonder, whoever thought of that idea?
Wow.
Because no one would ever have thought of that idea. Proof is no one else ever tried it. No one would have ever thought of that idea, I believe. The only reason it seems normal to us is because we all know the story.
Right.
And we saw the movie.
And the movie was good. And we saw this one, too.
That's right.
All right, great. Well, Shavuot, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I'm excited.
Be there.
Have a great Shavuot, and we'll be back even before that.
Before that, yes.
Another episode of Jeff and the Rabbi.